Iraq and Iran are nearly at war, and Saudi Arabia has called a caucus of Islamic nations to try and discuss the matter. We'll go now to see what's going on. I'm standing outside the room where there is going to be an Islamic caucus where Saudi Arabia is about to make some sort of an announcement. The delegate from Saudi Arabia, I want to ask you, can you give us a clue as to what you're going to ask?
We're here to address the issue in Iraq. We want to come up with a joint press release in order to kind of come up with a solution to this problem. We hope through these talks that we can come up with a peaceful solution that will appease all member nations.
What kind of a solution are you thinking?
I'm not exactly sure right now. I guess we'll just have to see what happens.
Thank you very much, Delegate. Well, for further coverage, we'll continue to follow this story.
Iran attempted to help end the conflict surrounding the Persian Gulf.
With me now is a delegate from Qatar. He also sits on the Security Council and gave a rousing speech to the group of Islamic nations trying to discuss the situation between Iraq and Iran. Andy, in your speech you talked about how we need to move on from this. What are your feelings on? Can you comment on your speech?
Right. Well, Iran essentially got up and reiterated what they did in front of the Security Council was that they had a resolution to cut off all traffic coming in and out of the Persian Gulf. And so essentially the point of my speech was that we discussed this in Security Council and we all agreed it was a terrible idea. It was vetoed by the U.S. There was broad opposition to it. And essentially Iran tried to hijack our meeting and discuss this resolution again, which really has nothing to do with the civil war in Iraq or any of the problems between Iraq and Iran. It's just another power grab by Iran to try to increase control of the Persian Gulf for Iran.
Is it possible that the issue will be resolved between the two countries? I mean, even with you all flexing your muscle?
Right. Well, Crisis came to talk to us, and he told us what he's really looking for is an agreement between Iraq and Iran to demilitarize the border, and then to try to persuade Iran not to seize control of the Strait of Hormuz, which is the entry point to the Persian Gulf. Really what I would like to see is to ignore Iran on this issue. I really don't think that we should grant them any legitimacy. They brought this in front of the Security Council. The Security Council resoundingly voted it down. And I think that to even recognize that they have the ability to do this would be to grant legitimacy to an idea that really has no standing at all or shouldn't have any standing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So giving power to an idea that probably has no merit. The nation of Qatar, who sits on the Security Council, has spoken their mind. Thank you. We'll now go to the expert. Coming back to you in the studio from our meeting of the Islamic nations, I'm sitting here with Keith, our resident expert on the Middle East, once again. Keith, was anything resolved in the meeting of these Islamic nations?
Dan, I believe there was a consensus reached. Essentially, Iraq agreed to demilitarize their border with Iran if Iran agreed to allow equal access to the Strait of Hormuz and not block it off as they had threatened in the meeting if their demands weren't met.
Now, it wasn't Iraq or Iran that called the meeting. It was Saudi Arabia, I believe. What are their intentions and what is their motive for calling to order this meeting?
Well, Saudi Arabia is a major center in the Islamic world, and various clerics were greatly concerned with what was happening in Iraq. So a meeting was called in Mecca, specifically, where the conference took place. Now, they wanted to attempt to solve the rift in the Islamic faith, and so that is why the government of Saudi Arabia also condoned this meeting.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. For further information, we'll be coming to you later. For now, I'm Dan Actually. That concludes the broadcast. I'm Dan Actually, and that's news to me.